Hi guys, it's Alex McCann here, and we're here for episode 5 of the Social Conversation, the chat show where we talk about what we've seen on social media over the past 7 days. And we've got a International Women's Day special this week with 3 of our networking queens from around the Cheshire, Manchester area joining us today. So we're going to go around the room and meet all of them. For those that don't know Tricia, Kirsty and Sue, but I'm sure most of you will do. So let's start with Tricia. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm sure lots of people do know me. My name is Tricia Peters and I run Cheshire Business Events. I run business breakfasts that are mixed groups, and I run women-only events. So they tend to be lunches or early evening. And I've been doing that for up to 10 years now.
Fantastic. We've all got heaps of experience between us. And Sue as well, introduce yourself.
Hi there, I'm Sue France. I run Creative Connecting in Cheshire. I've also been doing that for 10 years, been running networking events. And in the pandemic, I've been doing them virtually once a month.
Fantastic. And Kirsty, how long have you been going for? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well, let's go for a triple whammy. Let's say 10 years as well. So it's 10 years as Colony, but I do some other stuff as well. So yes, Kirsty James, my main business is Colony Networking. It's a mixture of both offering events, but also helping people with their networking skills and strategy and confidence. So really around networking and business development coaching. And then I also run some other networking type things as well, like LinkedIn Local is one brand. I help with the Subs Warrington. So I get my fingers into a few pies.
Fantastic. And I think I'm going to make that a quadruple as well. So I've been networking for about 10 years as well. So we've got combined 40 plus years networking experience between us. And when I'm doing the day job, which as you can see is Altrincham HQ, we're social media trainers and social media managers. So if you need help with your social media, you're dabbling, you're struggling a little bit, that's where I come in and help you. So that's myself. So a couple of weeks ago, we took a week's break last week. We had Learn Northwest in, Markle and Joseph and Opticians, and Grantee's Coffee House. And what I always say at the beginning of these social conversations is your likes, comments and shares really do matter. Our guests are giving up their time for free. I'm giving up my time for free. So do support us with a like, comment and share today when you're watching this back on Facebook and YouTube. So we're going to dive straight in to what we've seen on social media. When we're talking about the breaking news to start with. And obviously, I don't think it gets any bigger than last night's Meghan Markle interview with Oprah. I'm saying Meghan Markle, it's Meghan and Harry with Oprah last night. And I think I will start with what my talking point was. Obviously, there were loads of tweets about it. There was Facebook messages. There's been TV shows about it. My main point that I took away was, aren't the media horrible, first of all? Don't you just take people down? And then also, where was the support from the family? Those were the two main talking points that kept coming back. Every 2 minutes of this interview, lack of support from the family and the way that the media likes to knock people down. We can talk about racism and all that kind of stuff, but those were the two talking points. So did you all see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Snippets of it. I was quite more intrigued by the chatter going on social media about it rather than the actual interview itself, because I'm not one for tuning into that kind of thing ordinarily. I know in life there's always two sides to a story, and I think you have to be mindful of that kind of bigger setting when somebody goes into the spotlight. So I only tuned into parts of it.
I recorded it because I can't do with all the advertisements in between, and then ran through that. It was just an easier way of watching it. And but my feeling is there's 3 sides to a story. There's theirs, and the truth. So, who knows? Because we only heard one side, didn't we? So, but it's concerning that the issues raised were concerning.
I watched Meghan's father this morning. I don't know if anyone saw that.
Yes, I saw that. Yes.
I thought that was heartbreaking.
Yes.
That was another side to the story. That seemed to affect me most, because the thought of a father and a daughter not speaking, I just thought it's so sad. So Yeah, that's what I took away from it.
I saw that as well, Sue, and his feeling was that if Meghan needed help during that mental health issue she had, he was there for her, and so was the rest of their family, and his ex-wife's family were there as well, and yet, you know, none of them knew about it, and they felt sad about it, didn't they?
Yeah,
Definitely.
I think that overall, I mean, I've been in the house all day long. It's over and over every single program. It was on Jeremy Vine, then it was on everything you looked at. It was really overdone today, wasn't it? But and it seemed to get worse as the day, more outlandish views and what's going to happen next. As the day wore on, everyone got more carried away.
Do you know what I was a bit sad about as well? The Americans see it as they see us all in that light. Apparently, Jeremy Vine said something on his show when I was driving today, and he said that he'd interviewed, and I can't remember who it was he'd interviewed, an American journalist, and she said, well, the Brits now, we used to think they were all, you know, a cozy nation, etc., but now we see them as someone who invites you for a tea party and they've got 6 bodies in the cellar. You know, that's all of us. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many viewpoints on this. I mean, at the end of the day, it's essentially take the royal bit out, and it's 2 families essentially. That's what it is.
Well,
and
it's a well-being subject, really. Like you say, you can park certain subjects because they're given as being wrong. You know, we take the race issue. Let's just put that aside because there's things that were done rightly and wrongly. But in terms of, for me, it's a well-being issue, and it's about a communication piece and what method is the right way to communicate. Whether you're well, not well, happy, who do you turn to, the role of, you know, louder players in the market like the media and things like that. But break it right down to basic human behaviour, and should people have somewhere to turn to if they have a mental health crisis? It's those little lessons, if anything, we should draw from it, without the sensationalism, which is the bit I'm really not a fan of. I would rather look at someone and just sort of say, do they have someone to turn to? Do they have the friends, the family, the mechanisms, the organisations? Because there's amazing support out there, but people can obviously be in a sort of a tunnel without that vision through the end of the tunnel when they're in those moments. So that's a bigger, a more important message, that the organisations that do that kind of work and support, that they can come forward now and get more limelight on them. I'd rather see them spotlighted in all of this, so that the people that are the kinds of opinions I saw on social media afterwards, that people either loved it or hated it last night. They were either, oh, this is boring, I'm switching off. You know, why should this be so important when there's plenty of people going through heartache and their own troubles anyway? And then there were other people who went, oh, I'm glad that it's all been aired. It was time to get the skeletons out the closet, and it was time to sort of raise the issue and the alarm bell. But let's just take it back to average people again. You know, where does the average person go to who has those issues? You know, they don't get that spotlight on them to be able to air their issues. So that's the bigger piece for me.
There was something on that Jeremy Vine show today. I'm sure Sue would have heard it as well, because, as I say, I listened to the whole programme because I was driving, and they were talking about where to ring in. Where would you go if you needed help? And a few people said, when people need help, it isn't always obvious, and they don't like to ask for it. And even if, you know, there's friends and people around, people shy away from it if you say you've got a mental health issue. So we all need educating, don't we? Sometimes people don't notice it, or they don't want to notice it. So that came out loud and clear on that programme today. And the other thing I would say is, you know, for some, they obviously, I mean, Prince Harry obviously hates the press, you know, he's got personal experience of it. But what they did in that programme, they made a lot of newspaper editors very happy. They aired it all in public. All the newspapers have been carrying it and will carry it, and the broadcasters have made a fortune out of it. So it's a bit sad, that, isn't it?
Yeah. I was thinking about lack of communication, which is a thing that's happened during COVID, because people can't see each other face to face. There's so many misunderstandings, and things happen because you tweet and use Messenger and you do emails. You're not actually seeing people. And I think a lot of it was something was about a letter and something. And I think everyone's got these problems at the moment. There's so many misunderstandings and mistakes because we can't actually go and see people, especially members of our family. I think it's the tip of the iceberg, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we could talk about this all for the next 45 minutes of this, but I wanted to leave us before we go on to the next talking point. There's something I saw, literally, he shared it last night. It's a good friend of mine, Joe Farrar, and he said this about the interview, which I thought I'm going to read out. Meghan Markle is not going to see your snide comment saying you don't believe she was suicidal, but your mates who have been in the past will, and they'll know never to come to you for help. I thought that's a really important part, like Kirsty mentioned, and there's a lot of people suffering from mental health. And if we don't have someone to turn to, when our friends are posting stuff about celebrities or the royal family or so on, it's really important to know that you can call the Samaritans if you haven't got close friends to do so. So I think that's the talking point. Mental health is really, really important. So we're going to move on because we've got lots of talking points today. And as we said, we could unwrap that whole interview for 45 minutes. So Tricia, what has stood out for you on social media this week?
Well, I think something really important was the Queen's Commonwealth service, and this takes place every year. And this year it was broadcast virtually. So the Prince of Wales read from the Abbey, and the Queen had a message. And in her message, ironically enough, was about commitment and courage and communication. You know, how we've had to communicate because of not being able to see people, and how important it was to communicate. So her message was really about service as well, you know, and helping others, which I thought was quite interesting.
I'm gonna be hands up here. I didn't see it, and I'll tell you why I didn't see it. I would love to say I was being ultra relaxed on a Sunday afternoon and watching the Manchester Derby, because it was on at the same time as the Manchester Derby. But instead, I was working my ass off, doing work on a Sunday. I worked all weekend this weekend. So I've not seen it. So did any of you two see it, Sue or Kirsty?
I read it. There was the transcript in the paper yesterday, so I did read it. So I know what she said. So I suppose that's important, isn't it? That's the most important thing.
I think what was, you know, the Queen's never wavered from the Commonwealth, has she? She's very proud of it. It's very close to her heart. And the fact that it's, I mean, some people will say, well, the Commonwealth was based on empire, and of course it was. But I think the Queen's tried to move it away from that, you know, and she's spent so much time over the years visiting, and she has people from all over the world come to the palace and meets them. And you know, it's certainly true that they have tried to promote diversity there, you know, within the Commonwealth. So I thought that was quite interesting that it happened to be the same week as this interview.
Did you see it, Kirsty?
I didn't. No. Sadly, my weekends are either work or children as well. I'm not a huge TV watcher, so I will usually skim the highlights through either some kind of social media summary or hear bits on the radio. That's probably how I tune into news highlights the most.
Can I just say that I think I wasn't that aware of the Commonwealth service until a few years ago. And I met a teacher who said that she had been invited to the Commonwealth service, and well, she'd applied for tickets and taken her children. You know, she is a head teacher in Cambridge, she had a primary school, and she took the children there. And I thought it was really interesting. In fact, it was 2018, when I was talking to her about it, just before the royal wedding in 2018. And I was lucky enough to have had an invitation to Buckingham Palace for a garden party. So at that garden party, I met this particular lady who was telling me all about it. And I thought it sounded so interesting. So I've followed it since.
A little bit of pomp and ceremony, a little
Yes.
bit of a message to the public is always good. So what else have you seen, Tricia?
Trying to think what else I wanted to talk about now. The
up north in Scotland, I believe it was.
Sorry, I knew there was something else. Yeah, I think that has been fascinating. I think it has been fascinating. The interviews, the commentary that comes through. Everyone's got a different opinion on that. Who, you know, he said, she said. Who's telling fibs, you know, why will it all just get brushed under the carpet? You know, this is really quite interesting when you look at all the dynamics, and then two people who were so close and now are destroying each other or attempting to destroy each other. So I think that's been very interesting. There's been a lot of commentary, and this still moves afoot to kind of votes of no confidence here, there and everywhere. But who knows how that will come out. And it's really important because it's the future of the Union, isn't it?
I mean, it seems all out war at Scotland, doesn't it? It seems all out war.
Well, Kirsty must have some interest here because her father's a Scot.
But actually, in some respects, quite a modernist one in terms of the benefits outside the walls of Scotland. Yes, say no more.
So has anyone been watching this play out? I haven't seen. I try to, if I'm totally honest, because I live and breathe social media, politics is one thing I try and stay out of because it can all consume you. So has anyone seen the whole Alex Salmond thing play out?
I watched her when she was in the Parliament for a few hours defending herself, and I watched some of that. And because she's a woman in a high position, I wanted her to do well, and I think she held herself very well and spoke. Who knows the truth, but I think she defended herself well.
She's a brilliant politician. There's no doubt about it. Love her or hate her, she is a brilliant politician, isn't it? But it's just, I just think it's fascinating the way it's developed. Just because it's a very small place, isn't it? Very parochial, very small, and I don't know how many Scots there are. About 5 million, if that, something like that. So it's a small, kind of kingdom, really.
It's going to be interesting developments over the next few months, I think, watching what goes on. So I'm going to take a look at what I've seen on social media over the past week, and I'm not sure if you've seen this. There was a story that came out about the bids reached $2.5 million for Twitter's co-founder's first post by this thing called NTF. So you might have seen a lot of talk about NTF on LinkedIn or social media, but basically it's a thing called non-fungible. It more or less means that it's unique and can't be replaced by something else. So people are comparing it to the buying of a tweet to a more traditional autograph or a piece of memorabilia. And other people have been doing things like Kings of Leon and Grimes have been selling unique albums that only you can buy from this NFT thing. So have any of you seen that story at all?
No.
Gosh, no. You might be on your own on that one, Alex.
It's a bit of a tech thing. It's kind of started as like, it's a way for artists to make money. So it started off as artists could sell unique creations. So imagine a modern day version of the Mona Lisa, where you buy the rights to the original Mona Lisa rather than buying a print. That's the way it seems to be playing out. And everything that's going on this NFT technology, it's based around the whole concept of blockchain. But the whole idea that someone wanted to buy the rights to a tweet for $2.5 million.
A tweet, yeah, we're not talking about something tangible here. We're talking about what, an opinion, or was it a factual tweet? What was the actual tweet? It was
the Twitter co-founder's very first tweet, which said something, I can't remember what it said. It was something really mundane, like "Welcome Twitter" or something like that.
It was the standard one that Twitter generates when you've
and it was just like, there's a lot of talk about these NTFs or NFTs, non-fungible transactions. And I just find it's a really interesting concept that people are prepared to pay for what is not something tangible, not something you can hold in your hand.
Even those people that buy into memorabilia, I mean, I kind of understand that if you're an absolute fan and you've got to get the football shirt or the trophy or the first record that was ever made, I sort of understand that if you're a super fan. But for something that is just words, and words are always down to interpretation or just really what they evoke about that particular moment, it's signifying that it was the first of the set of that the first of that chapter, wasn't it, with Twitter coming in. But I just can't understand why you would put that amount of money, given how much money is needed for really serious things in life. I'm sorry, that's just beyond me. Beyond me.
It's just reminding me of when I was a teenager. I had the Beatles sign my autograph book twice, so I had 2 pages with the 4 Beatles on each page, and I swapped one of the pages. I cut it out and swapped it with my French pen pal, and she sent me some French ones, but they were fake. And like a pretend, you won't know, Johnny Halliday and these Claude Francois and things, but she'd just written them. And I realized that then found out later that page of my autographed book was worth something. That's the only thing I can think of. It's not relevant, but it makes me think of it.
It's interesting.
I was just going to say, I think that this is like the modern version of it. I saw another tweet saying that people under 35 will get it and people over 35 won't. And I think we're all over the 35 mark, which means we don't get it. But as Sue said, like, it's gone from autographs. And then there was a story a few years ago that autographs aren't a thing for a lot of people, because when you meet a celebrity now, you take a selfie with them rather than get an autograph.
Yeah.
And this is the modern version that we're looking at and go, we don't get that. But there's someone younger than us that is saying, oh, you old diz, I totally understand this.
Yeah, well, the camera's just, yeah, you didn't, it's absolutely true. I've got an autograph book somewhere actually behind me on the floor. I was sorting out a big box of stuff, memorabilia and stuff. And I, as a child, I spent a lot of time going to athletics meetings with my parents. My dad was a big athlete. And so I've got loads of famous athletes autographs, you know, sort of, you know, your Daley Thompson and your Linford Christie and your, you know, John Regis and you know, just all sorts of people, and followed all these meets around. I found the book and I thought, what on earth do I do with this? I kind of sort of put it back in the box and thought, I'll put it back in the loft. I've no idea what you do with all these scribbled signatures, because I actually, as a child, had to write beside them to say who they were because I couldn't read the squiggle.
I've done that. I've written beside them all who they are as well.
But I think what was interesting, you were talking about generations. Sue said her pen pal. Who has pen pals nowadays? I had one. We all had one, didn't we?
Yeah. In fact, I forced my kids to be pen pals with my pen pals' children. That's the way round.
So definitely,
Yeah, I know.
it seems like a generational thing. So we'll move on. And the other thing that I'm going to go around the room one by one and ask you each this question. It seems to be awards season at the moment. It always traditionally was about October, November that awards season happened. And it hasn't happened in the last year because of the pandemic. But recently we've had, in our area, we've had the Promote Trafford Awards. We had a couple of weeks ago. We've then had the International Women's Day Awards, which took place on Saturday, which the Trafford Council organised. And we've got our local chamber business awards coming up on Friday. And my question for you is, I always debate this. I always love being shortlisted for award. Naturally, you love it when you win an award, but awards, are they important for business owners? So I'm going to start with Tricia and then go to Kirsty, then go to Sue. So Tricia, are awards important?
I think there's a mixed view about awards. I think to some people, they love to win awards and they love to be able to put it somewhere, winner of whatever, you know, Warrington Business Awards or whatever. Other people think it's just because who's going to enter, it's just self-promoting. I am actually on the board of Warrington Business Awards, and we would normally have had our business awards in last year, and we had 2020. We were promoting 2020 and we had to just stop it. And then we were hoping to hold it this year, and again, no go. So we're hoping 2022. And we notice a lot of people are holding these awards online. They're doing it online. And we had this discussion, but that's not what our aim is. Our aim is to bring the people of Warrington together in their finery, have a great spectacular evening, and the awards are the afterthought. So that's the way we do it. So that's why we haven't done the awards, but we're going to have one hell of a party when we can come back and do it. And that's what it's about. Kirsty will know some of the people who are on that, and they're quite flamboyant, and that's what they want. And so the businesses get a great night. They get a great night if they've won something as well. And yeah, it is important. People like it. It's enjoy a night like that.
Kirsty, you've obviously probably been to many awards, maybe even won multiple awards. What are your thoughts on awards?
Yeah, I'd agree with the polarization between people either wanting to go because they want the award or wanting it more for the glitzy occasion and more the kind of the piece about coming together and celebrating, you know, more globally, more community based, you know, as a whole, rather than singling out people. I've been to loads of awards. I've applied for some awards. A lot have eluded me. I won't lie. I still do pursue. I would love to get an award for my business achievements. I've got awards. In fact, I got a very exciting award at Christmas time from the Prime Minister, because I got the Points of Light award for my community work, and that was out of the blue. I had no idea I was getting it, and so it probably changed my view on awards a little bit, because I think a lot of people, you know, there's those people that are doing it for promotional awareness, and, you know, getting that award in the bag lets them suddenly become visible to a whole new market, and people look up and sort of see them as a bigger version of themselves all of a sudden, able to take on bigger work, bigger contracts, etc. So there's, you know, there's a portion of people that are for that reason, and then there's others that are doing it really to just sort of get the pat on the back that they've been working years for that, you know, to get. And I suppose my community award was very much about that. I didn't know I was getting it. I hadn't applied for it, unlike business awards that I'd not got in the past or whatever. So it was a bigger reward than ever to really get something I hadn't expected. But yeah, I still think there's a place for them. It's the move to virtual is interesting. I'm with Trish on this in terms of, should you hang on and wait for the in-person ones? Personally, if I was an awards organizer, I probably would have done. Are the people who've won awards at virtual ceremonies as happy as they might have been if they'd been at a real event in person? Do they feel a little bit shortchanged that they didn't get their moment in the spotlight in person? Maybe, I don't know, maybe the glitz and glamour of still doing it online and sitting at home with your glass of fizz and your award. That's enough, because it depends on your motivation for why you entered it and why you wanted it. That's the ultimate goal, what it's for. So yeah, I personally wouldn't run something myself virtually, and for bigger events I've done, like I do TEDx Warrington, that's the license I've got. I chose to postpone that, and will postpone it until it can be in person, because personally I feel like the presence in the room and the collective whole and the excitement of being together is as important as the actual singular awards.
And Sue, obviously, I'm sure you've won multiple awards, but I know that you've got your very popular Facebook group, and I know that you quite often mention when your members have got awards. So I take it you consider them quite important.
I do. I've never actually won an award, apart from when I worked for the hotel group, and we won like Yorkshire Life Awards for Best Newcomer Hotel, and I was part of the team, that kind of thing. For business awards, for what I do, I've been in the finals quite a few times, and I'm always thrilled when I go to the events. I always feel really proud to be there, proud. I love the fact that someone's nominated me, that somebody thinks I'm worth it, even if I don't win. I think it helps your self-esteem. But I have got a word of warning. There are false awards. I don't know if other people have come across these. You see things, you sometimes get emails of these companies that say, you have won an award, or and then you say yes, and then they want a few £100. You can actually buy awards, can't you? Have you heard of this?
Yes, I've heard of it, the big awards scam where you pay for a publicity package off the back of winning it somehow. Yeah, always a bit iffy.
Yeah, so people should just be careful. If they get a message that they've been nominated for an award, just make sure it's a bona fide award. That's all I would say.
100% agreed. And yeah, I've got everything crossed for this Friday's award. Fingers crossed I win. I'm shortlisted for 3. Fingers crossed I win at least one of them. I don't want to be.
Which three is it, Alex?
I'm up for Micro Business of the Year, Business of the Year, and Digital Business of the Year. So one of them, I don't want to be the bridesmaid in every single award. I want to be the bride in one of them. So fingers crossed I actually, win one of them. That'll be lovely. And then someone else can win the other 2. We'll share the love around. But yeah, so obviously that's what I've seen. Those are my 2 talking points. So Sue, what has stood out for you on social media this week?
Well, homeschooling, because the children went back on Monday. Because as a grandma, last year I hardly saw my grandchildren at all. Obviously, we couldn't see them. We weren't in a bubble. And then suddenly after Christmas, my son rang and he said, my son and my daughter-in-law are key workers. My daughter-in-law works at a school, so she had to go in. She's a chef to feed the key workers and vulnerable children. Anyway, would we homeschool? So after barely seeing them, we've been homeschooling. So obviously they all went back on Monday. So I've been following that in the media a lot. Lots of funny videos that people have been bringing out about when people heard the children were going back to school on March the 8th, they were packing their lunch boxes like a week in advance and putting the clothes ready. Everyone was so excited the children were going back.
Yeah, there was definitely the sense of like, I haven't got children, but there was a sense on like Friday afternoon from about lunchtime where every single social media update was like, we've finished being a teacher, we're back to being a parent again. So yeah. Was that how you felt, Kirsty?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I have 3, so 2 high school and 1 primary, and the primary has required my full attention since Christmas. So this lockdown, and I know a lot of parents are in the same boat, this lockdown's been a harder one than the previous one where schools shut. I think because the first one, we weren't geared up with the online lessons yet. They were being set work. I have a husband teacher, my husband's a teacher. So the first lockdown he was around because we weren't onto live lessons by then. This time round, full on live lessons. But if you've got children in that age group of say 4 to about 9, 10, that age category was particularly a stretch because you've got children that can't actually manage to do everything themselves technically, but also manage to do the work when they're on a class and have the attention span. So I pretty much just have given up most of what I wanted to do work-wise since Christmas to be with my son, even though my other 2 could be self-sufficient. And I know a lot of working mums who've had to do the same, or they've juggled. And when I juggled, I just did everything terribly, as most women will claim to do. You're just literally spinning plates and feeling you're doing none right. And then you're dropping them all. And then that's a complete knock to your confidence levels. You're thinking, well, I'm a rubbish mother and I'm a rubbish worker and I'm letting everybody down. So you decide to do one or the other. But then, it's been hugely frustrating. And although there's no qualms in most parents' minds as to what the decision is that you need to make, and you just do what you need to do. The stretch on people since Christmas has been huge. So Friday, I did have a few drinks, I'm not going to lie. And then when they went back in yesterday, I almost skipped home. I was sort of jovial. I only managed till about 10 past 11 before I got the first school call, actually, saying, "Oh, we've got a bumped head, and would you like to come and get him, or stay, or leave him in, and we'll observe him?" So I'm like, "Well, is he dizzy, or is he still awake? Is he crying? Is he asking for me?" None of those. In which case, keep him. It was like that Facebook advert. B. Do you want to stay at home with your wife and children, or do you want to go to work? B. And it was that. So yeah, huge relief, but mixed, tinged with bits of guilt, and obviously a bit of weird sadness too, because your house is suddenly eerily quiet, and you've got to just find different things to channel your energies and just get remotivated again now. So
I was just going to say, I've got so much admiration for parents because they were dropped off at our house at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they finished their work with us about 2 to their parents. But for you and to all parents all over the country, you were juggling. Yeah, I didn't take any calls during that time. I just concentrated on them, and then I had the rest of the day to carry on with work. But it wasn't like that for you. So much admiration. People could write books over the funny things, and you see people, in the first lockdown it was all about whether you were on a Zoom call and your children were walking by in the background, and it was that kind of humour. This time round it's been more about what happened when you decided to take a work call. I remember being on a work call and turning around and seeing a ping on the another message to be told by somebody else's parent that my child was back on Xbox, and he was upset. He'd whizzed off while I was on the call, and I hadn't even known. And it's he just took bad parent, bad mom, not concentrating. But everyone's got a story of what went on when they just couldn't concentrate for that moment.
I think the same as Sue's just said. I've got great admiration. I mean, I had 3 children when, they're grown up now, but I can't imagine what it would have been like trying to homeschool them. At one point, they were at 3 different schools, so they weren't even all at the same school. And I just have, I don't know how. I mean, we've had all this news that Alex kicked off with about the Meghan and Harry saga. And the most important thing really this week was those children going back to school. They've got mental health issues because of it. So many children. probably many mothers, they've taken the brunt of it, haven't they? I know some great fathers as well, but they, you know, it's known that many of the mothers have had to take this on. And it's so difficult. It's such a difficult thing to have to do. You're not used to this. And where do you find 3 laptops, or, you know, where do you find the right computers for them to work on? I mean, some of them will be working on iPhones, I've no doubt. It's a very difficult thing to you've got 3, Kirsty, so they're all at different stages, 2 teenagers, like you say, and a primary school child. So you must be, I mean, the teenagers can probably do a lot themselves, but they still need you around. If you're their teacher, aren't you?
Yeah, and I think you've got to prompt even the ones where they can get on the classes themselves. The IT issues, most families will say that, you know, the Wi-Fi is just keeled under the strain of maybe 2 or 3 children and all the gadgetry that goes with, and then 2 parents being on calls. You know, everyone's Wi-Fi, I'm sure, has been compromised and things like that. But yeah, I think the mental health issue, again, you know, I know it's a theme that comes up in a lot of circles, but every parent I know has been concerned and was worried on Sunday night about how they would adapt. I've got 2 that were raring to go and go back, and I've got 1 that did not want to go back, and still does not, and doesn't want to be there, and has become removed and just gone inwards and not enjoyed the way homeschooling and online classes were, and needs to re-socialize. And you know, the teachers and schools are doing an amazing job, or certainly the ones where my kids are focusing now on the well-being side of integration, of reintegrating them and focusing on, let's teach you how to play again, because you get silly stuff like, you know, fidget syndrome, and it genuinely was a syndrome called, apparently, after the first lockdown, of kids that had just been on gadgets and they're fidgeting around and not able to concentrate. And that's what concerns me as a mum, you know, sort of what's going to happen with the reintegration into sort of, you know, social. We all assume they'll walk back in and just kick a football around and just all be happy again. It's not quite as simple as that now for these kids.
I've been doing some for the last, since end of January, I've been doing some teaching at a college age, so not primary school, not secondary school, at a college age, for music industry students, teaching them about marketing. It's a really weird experience from the teacher's perspective, but I've never met these students in person. So I'm going in, starting semester 2, and teaching people via Zoom, but obviously because some of them are late teenagers, some of those are early 20s, but you're speaking to, they don't have the cameras on. So you're, as a teacher, you're speaking to a blank screen. And obviously they're unmuting and talking and they're chatting in the chat function. But it's a really weird experience for the teacher. So I think the teacher's probably going to have to adapt to going back to a full classroom of face-to-face. It's really quite weird.
When they finished maybe all their testing and all the other things that they're doing. So my husband's a teacher, as I've mentioned, and that was the hardest thing as a teacher. Well, one of the hardest was grading them if you were in an exam year, and having to grade them in the summer based on teacher assessment, because the goalposts were changing in terms of how that was going to work. But then also it was the teaching to a blank screen. You know, you log on to your A-level class of 20 kids, and where are they all? There's 4 there, and none of them have got the video on. And interestingly, I taught to some young people last week. I presented on an event last week, and only 2 or 3 had their videos on. So I got exactly that experience that you've mentioned there, of basically looking at a blank square and just with a picture or a name. And it's extremely hard to assess engagement levels. And you're trying to tell a parent and a teacher, you know, how much their kids are actually learning and engaging, and the fault's all on the teacher's side, that if they're not, sort of thing, if they've not learnt anything. And it's like, well, you can't see the child and they're not chatting in the chat, you know, how would you know? It's so difficult.
Oh yeah, so we could chat about this topic forever, I imagine. But again, this could be a full 45-minute special. But we need to move on. So what else have you seen, Sue? What else have you seen on social?
Well, the other thing that I was worrying about was the Isle of Man, because there was no COVID there, and all of a sudden they're in lockdown again. And I think we're so waiting to come out of this, and we can't wait for April the 12th when the shops open, and is it May the 17th when we can go into inside restaurant? I don't know all the dates, but we've just got all these in our heads, and June the 21st when everything's back to normal. And the fact that the Isle of Man had gone back to normal for a few weeks and then they were in lockdown again, that worried me. That So I think that's the only thing that was on my mind from social media. The reports about the Isle of Man, I keep looking to see how they're doing.
Yeah, I've been looking at Isle of Man and New Zealand and these countries that have sort of opened up. A friend of a friend was in a pub a couple of weeks ago with no mask on, a full pub, and all my friends were getting very jealous of him. And obviously, she said he's gone back into lockdown. Did any of you two see any of that at all, Isle of Man?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a piece on Greg's show on Radio 1 in the morning where they'd had a guy from the Isle of Man ring in a few weeks ago, all smug, you know, we're back out, and they had him back on, sort of going, oh, I'm gonna have to eat my words now because we're back locked down. But it is representative of the fears of the nation, because we've been there before, haven't we? We're in, we're out, we're in, we're out. It's like the hokey cokey, and so you can never quite trust that you're going to be properly out, even when everyone's, you know, the vaccines are coming out now. You know, as the three of us are in events as well, you know, we talk all the time about when physical events will resume, because I don't know that confidence level will really be there until everyone's had the second jab. And even then there's going to be pockets of people that haven't been jabbed. And, you know, will people want to resume in the way we did? I think it's going to take, and then there's the flu, you know, they're now talking about the flu coming out. So I feel like this hokey cokey is going to carry on for quite a while yet, really.
And actually, talking about events, going back to events, I'm getting people saying they would like to carry on. People are desperate to meet again. They are. There's no doubt about it. I did a survey on it, and 3/4 of the people came back and said, yes, they definitely want to get back to face-to-face networking. However, there's a few people who also added it would be nice to have some Zoom meetings, because you've not got to get in your car at lunchtime if you have a lunchtime one, and you can do it in an hour, and that's all it's taken you, just an hour. It hasn't taken you half an hour to get there, find somewhere to park your car and then go in, and then half an hour afterwards got stuck in traffic. So, you know, there is a case to carry on doing this.
Definitely, yeah. I think there'll be a mixture of both in the future.
Yes. Yeah.
Very much blended approach. So we're going to move on to Kirsty now, and I think your point was fairly similar. What stood out for social for you, Kirsty?
Well, obviously homeschooling is and the end of that, and return to schools was the biggest issue for me as a parent. And we're coming up to the anniversary now of lockdown, aren't we? 20th of March is when the kids finished, thinking they were having an extra long Easter holiday, and we all thought we were having 2 weeks plus the 2 weeks holiday, and after 4 weeks it would all have gone away. So yeah, that has been absolutely the biggest issue as a working parent. I think there's all the little peripheral issues now around now things like the testing. My children are having tests every 2 days, and so I'm getting a constant ping of the text message every day of which one has been tested on that day. And for high schoolers, it's self-administration, and how reliable that is, because they haven't had very many cases. Is that because the tests are being done correctly? You know, I believe the false negatives and false positives quite low, but that's if they're done properly in the first place. So I do wonder about that. I do wonder about things where in different schools, different percentages are refusing to have the test. I've spoken to other people in other schools where they're you know, there's only 60-70% uptake, because you have to have parental consent for them to have the test. So whether then there's a big, you know, all these people are doing the test, and then there's a huge opt-out, and then what happens, you know, to those? Same with the masks. The mask, you're asked to wear a mask in class, but children will not like that. What happens when they turn around and rebel against the teacher and say, I'm not putting it on, you know, make me, sort of thing. So there's all those little peripheral issues around the return to school, as well as all the things we talked about before around well-being.
That's quite amusing, because if you'd said that when I was at school, make me, you'd probably have got caned for it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm showing my age there.
Yeah, and there's very little they can do. You know, teachers should be empowered more than they are. That is absolutely, yeah, they should be. But anyway, so there's those issues. I suppose the other big issue for me in the media over the last few days, yesterday, and it's one of the reasons we've come together this week, is International Women's Day, which was yesterday, 8th of March. It has lots of lovely, funny twists to this, because one of the first and the last big event that many people went to that know Trish, Sue and myself, and you were at as well, was our first ever collaborative event where we ran International Women's Day, or Cheshire International Women's Day, last March. And we aimed for, you know, sort of whatever it was, 125 people, and filled the room and had a fantastic event. And people were just starting to talk about COVID and saying, they actually asked us, didn't they, on the panel, you know, where do you think this COVID's going to go? What do you think will happen to events? And are you going to ask people to stop handshaking today? And we were answering questions like that. Should people shake hands? Should people put sanitizer on? And we were just sort of saying, well, it's for everyone just to look after themselves as a grown adult, really. There were no rules in place. And then we went into lockdown. Many people connected to us will know that tomorrow we're running our International Women's Day event online. Obviously, we had huge plans to pretty much double what we did last year. We can't go ahead with those, but it's just one of those. It's a watch this space for that. And meanwhile, we'll do the best we can with an online concept instead. So that's tomorrow. But I think the piece around International Women's Day, for those that don't know the theme this year, it's called Choose to Challenge. And the idea is about challenging ideas and beliefs to alert people to, you know, a topic or subject matter, because by being alert, you can then effect change. That's the concept behind Choose to Challenge. And I think it's for everyone to individually decide how they interpret Choose to Challenge, because for some it's an internal challenge yourself. For others, it's challenge external behaviour. For others, it's challenge the rules and the norms and the issues around gender. There's no doubt that the last year has thrown all the balls back up in the air again, just because of the way the statistics are in terms of the amount of women that have had to make sacrifices for childcare, and the lack of all the usual childcare routes that they would have had with nurseries and schools and nannies and au pairs and anything else, and family members helping. So there's I saw some amazing things, as I'm sure you all did, on social media yesterday, with people's videos and people giving everybody a shout out. I think that is one thing where women are pretty good at that. They're pretty good at getting, you know, being behind each other and giving other people a pat on the back. And I think that's where, you know, the power of sort of female networking is at its best. We're always got somebody's back. You're always really pulling together like a tribe and just sort of go for it, and encouraging people's belief in themselves and their self-esteem. And they were the messages that really came out on social media for me yesterday.
Well, even the four of us, we all run networking, don't we? But we all support each other, and we all promote each other's networking groups. So I think it's a good example right here tonight.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to go around the room, actually, because obviously it's an important talking point for this week. I'm going to start with Tricia, then Sue, and then Kirsty. Just again, Kirsty partly highlighted it. What does Choose to Challenge mean for you personally? So we'll start with Trish first.
Choose to Challenge. Well, it's our choice, isn't it? So this is an International Women's Day event that we're running. And I think it's, we should challenge things that we don't think are right. That's what it means to me. Things that we see or we hear, and it's our choice. You know, we have a voice, we can say something, and that's what it's about to me.
Well, to me personally, anything to do with technology is a personal challenge to me. Even coming on here tonight, hoping that my internet holds up. So Choose to Challenge is to keep having a go and going on new things and trying new technology, and encouraging other women to do the same, not to be scared of technology.
Right, and Kirsty, just yours as well?
Yeah, well, I've recorded a clip on this yesterday. I very much think it's about every woman sort of, as well as looking at the bigger global issues, facing inward and inwardly looking at themselves and challenging themselves, challenging their beliefs and their openness to kind of change and learning and development and becoming a better person, and making sure that they do question what is right and wrong, but they also remember that they are good enough, that we are brilliant. And it's about celebrating achievement, which is what I saw so much of yesterday. You have to remember that for every challenge you've had and for everything that isn't right, there's a load of things that are right. And I think we have to encourage all those people. So I feel that part of the challenge is challenging ourselves, but also challenging other people around us as well, in the female business or personal communities, but in our female communities, to be the best version of themselves and believe in themselves more, because that's where the power comes from, is where we all kind of get each other's back and really pull together.
Yeah,
definitely. So I didn't tell you I was going to ask this question because I've just come up with it in my head while everyone was talking. But what I want to do again, just to wrap up, just to end on, like, again, touch on that whole idea of supporting each other, women backing other women. I want to go around the room and find out, well, if you had to pick one woman, be it in business or your personal life or in celebrity culture or the areas of interest you love, which woman in the world do you really admire? So I'm going to start. Kirsty's thinking now, so I'm actually going to start. I know I'll put you on the spot here. Has anyone got anyone in mind that immediately just got an answer? So Tricia's first. Who's your one woman that really stands out for you?
I think this year, one woman who has stood out for me, and I think you all know her, is Sally Penny. I think she's an amazing woman. She got her MBE last year. She does so much for charity. She's an amazing barrister. She's been appointed as bencher for the Gray's Inn. And she is just incredible in the work she does to help young lawyers. I had the privilege to host the event for her last Friday, and it was about leadership, future leadership. So we had a lot of young lawyers on, students on from universities, and she lined up some amazing speakers. She was up to her eyes in court work, you know, prosecuting a case, and she needed someone just to host it for her. I know Sue was part of it. Sue had done a recording because she was doing homeschooling. And I think she's an incredible woman because she's got 3 children as well, 3 young children, still only primary school age. And one of her children has been treated for cancer, you know, so he's had to shield, and incredibly difficult. But throughout that, she's walked for charity, she's worn sparkly outfits for charity, and I think that's quite amazing. And I'm very, very proud that she's a friend of mine. So I would say definitely Sally Penny. I mean, I could put some international person up there, but why when we've got someone here?
Yeah.
Oh no, Sally is absolutely amazing. We all know, and I think Sally equally embodies everything that you girls do as well, in terms of International Women's Day isn't just for one day a year, it's for the 365 days a year that you back and support women in business around the respective areas that we work in. So yeah, very good one. So see if Kirsty can top Sally Penny. Who've you got as yours?
Well, that's the thing. I can't. I would put a vote with Sally as well. Absolutely. For me, obviously, I could pluck names out of famous people, Michelle Obama, or and yes, they all deserve respect and they're fantastic and they're wonderful role models. And I love the book and the film and all the things like that. But for me, it just comes down to the average person just doing their thing. So I can't name, because I'd end up picking somebody and leaving somebody else out. I found it a struggle yesterday just to go and tag people. You know, for me, it's the woman in the street who's fighting breast cancer. I've got friends who are doing that at the moment, or the woman that's juggled the homeschooling and then the work at the same time. It's I'm going to just say it's Mrs. Average that should be our hero, because they are just doing it. I mean, my sister's just had a baby, for example, at the moment. She's just absolutely just struggling and nailing it at the same time. It's the average person just doing their thing as a woman at the same time as maybe trying to wear other hats as well. That, you know, just the way life is. So I can't name a single, I'm afraid, but I will put a vote behind Sally as well, just because she is brilliant too.
Yeah, I think what you do as well, I mean, I think for those that are watching this and don't know Kirsty, I think it's every week, isn't it? You give a shout out to people like Positive Fridays and people that have supported you and so on. And I think it's that continual thing about let's just shout people out 365 days a year and support each other. Sue, have you got anyone specific in mind, or
Can I have 2?
Go on, yeah, you got 2.
You can have mine. You can have mine.
Right. One of them, funnily enough, we've got 2 speakers tomorrow. One's Sally Penny and the other one's Susie Mathis. And Susie Mathis is one of mine because after my daughter died in 2001, she was the person who helped me. I went to work for the Kirsty appeal that she ran, and I used to go in there when I couldn't bear to be at home. I used to go in that office. There'd be nothing for me to do. And she'd say, do you want to tidy that drawer? And she brought me into her life, and I used to go and visit her. And she was so kind to me. And she also taught me how to do events, how to put on events. So she's like my mentor.
Susie Mathis is brilliant. Yeah.
So that's my first one. And then the other one is actually Catherine Sandland, because I didn't speak in public. I wouldn't be here today on this discussion if Catherine Salmond hadn't given me the confidence and the training of how to speak in front of people. So those are the two I would pick.
Oh, fantastic.
That's
I think
really good. Yeah.
Those are all amazing choices in terms of this is a message I want anyone watching this to take away. Go and tell the person that's inspired you that they're absolutely amazing, because we don't often tell it to people. We don't often, unless we're asked in a question like that, we don't actually message someone out the blue on a messenger or WhatsApp or phone them up and say, you're amazing, you've changed my life. So definitely go and do that. So thanks again, Tricia, Sue and Kirsty, for joining us on the social conversation. For those viewers that are watching, please do, as I say, likes, comments and shares truly do matter, that we've given up our time today to talk about the issues that are important to us. So until next week, when we join you on episode 6, thank you for joining us, and thanks again, all of you. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.